There were fears about democratic backsliding in African countries as aid and interest from democratic Western nations dried up in early 2025. But have we maybe given support from Western nations too much credit for how democracy has progressed across Africa?
So we need to look at our specific situation and think from there uniquely what it is that we need.
Welcome to the flip side. Many observers regard the upcoming elections in Tanzania and Uganda as formalities rather than fair contests. Tanzania's opposition party Chadema has been banned from competing, and Uganda's increasingly authoritarian President Yoweri Museveni is seeking to extend his 4-decade rule.
One of the trends that we've picked up in East Africa is suppression of political opposition and the targeting of political parties and leaders of those parties who are trying to sort of upset the status quo.
Kenya too has experienced a crackdown on youth protests and politically motivated abductions. But as democracies mature, shouldn't elections become less controversial?
It takes a lot of time to get into a rhythm of peaceful turnover and people accepting that a certain amount of friction and debate and opposition is natural and good and healthy, and we also have to look at the perks of being in power.
Perks like impunity, access to wealth, and of course status. But in 2024, something happened for the second time in the world's most famous democracy, the United States.
In the past few years, that authoritarian practice has been emboldened and fast-tracked by the election of President Trump.
And not just in the US.
The rise of anti-rights movements across the world. And from Europe to Africa, we are seeing a strengthening of narratives that emboldened anti-migrant sentiment, anti-democratic sentiment.
Still, studies show that democracy is the most popular form of governance. But there have been abuses and unhappiness at how democracy has served the people in reality. So how do we get people to believe in democracy again?
Educate the civil society on their political rights. Educate them on the intent of certain parties so that, for one, when they vote, they're voting knowledgeably. And two, should things go wrong, like perhaps the wrong president is in power or someone who makes a promise does not live up to those promises, we know how to now follow up and litigate.
Our response as civil society needs to be equally emboldened. Emboldened enough to call for free and fair elections, emboldened enough to ensure that there's no violence during these voting periods, but also emboldened enough to call for a rethinking of the structures that are used to hold power to account when it comes to elections. Observation of elections shouldn't just come from, European or northern countries, but within Africa.
And for all this to happen, do African democracies really need the West as a guide?
Absolutely not. No. I think the notion that democracy is, or that the West is the holder of democracy is something that we really need to challenge.
I think that's a flat out no, we should not, because, our world is quite different from the West. Not so much radically so that we can't learn anything from them, but that we should start from our own home.
Voting habits have changed in African democracies, most notably in South Africa and Botswana, where the ruling parties saw their voting shares nosedive, and Ghana, which has seen multiple peaceful transitions of power.
Previously, we did a lot of tribal politics, but I think in the span of 8 years, Ghanaians became so wise. They looked actually at the economy, they looked at policies that the government promised to put in place that was not done, and we actually voted massively for change.
But more than that, it seems the self-owned, self-made democracy is the most powerful form.
And there are lots of really motivated and mobilized groups and civil society organizations and leaders who already want those changes and are working for them in very unsafe environments. And those people and organizations need support. And if that support can come from within the region, all the better, because then it will have greater legitimacy and provide more of a chance, not just for local ownership, but then for that to be sustained into the future.
And that's the flip side.